Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our Open Data for Gender Equality webinar. We are very glad to have you here with us today. And just to note, our webinar is being recorded, so you can access it instantly at any time using the link which you used to join us now. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can type them in a live chat box. Later on, we will answer all the questions at the end of our session. To introduce ourselves, my name is Iryna Gerasymenko. I am a project associate of the UNDP in Ukraine project strengthening small and medium enterprises business membership organizations. And here with me are my colleagues, Andriy, Zayika, project manager of the same project, Andriy Gorbal, Executive Director of the Ukrainian Center for Social Data, and Renat Nasridinov, Programmer and Analyst at the Ukrainian Center for Social Data. So the structure of our webinar is going to be the follows. Here we have Andriy Zayika, who will talk a little bit about the project and more importantly, a little bit about why here at UNDP we think that it's important to gender the data. After Andriy finish, we will give the word to our experts, and they will tell us, present us about the report, Women and Men in Leadership Position in Ukraine. They will go through the methodology, some basic concepts, some challenges that they had to face and to address while working with governmental open data in Ukraine. So let us begin. I'm going to hand over the word to Andriy.
Thanks a lot. Greetings everyone. Well, as Iryna mentioned, we do really pay attention to the issues of gender equality in UNDP, and these are not simple words for us, but the substance of our work, because we are, as UNDP, we're based and we stick to the concepts of the overall equality, should it be equality in terms of income or gender equality. So we work to provide equal opportunities to everyone, and especially to support those vulnerable in the country. As you know, the recently adopted Sustainable Development Goals feature prominently the gender equality. And the gender equality is the goal number 5. And this is the framework under which we actually worked to produce the report on women and men in leadership positions of Ukraine. A few words about the project. It has a very long title, but it's quite simple by its nature. We provide capacity building support to the business associations which bring together small and medium businesses, including women's enterprises, women-owned or women-led enterprises. And essentially, the idea of the research has been born and it comes from our more traditional activities. Like supporting the advocacy for women's economic empowerment. And actually, when we worked with one of the women's business associations, we came to the conclusion that we don't have enough gender disaggregated data to to provide the evidence to the economic empowerment policies or actions by the same associations. And we started looking at the possible solutions. How do we bridge the gap in the national statistics? To be more precise, the national statistics does not currently provide the insight into how many women-owned businesses are there, how many women are in leadership positions in organizations, and how many women actually run the businesses. There are many more dimensions to the gender equality in business and economic activity, because we can look at additional parameters such as women in other leadership, not as the directors or as those who are listed as owners, but also women in other leading positions in corporate businesses, for example, chief financial officers, chief human resource officers, etc., etc. So there is a bunch of parameters that we should we should be looking at when analyzing the stand of women in economic activities. And so we started to look at possible solutions on how to bridge the data gap. And the idea that we came to jointly with our partners from exactly. We've been working for them for so long that I already forgot their name. So Ukrainian Center for Social Data, and starting from 2015 approximately, the Ukrainian government has started publishing the so-called open government data. Essentially, those are the different data sets and databases which can be freely accessed on the web, on the single open data portal. And there is this register of business entities and entrepreneurs, which, however, doesn't have the gender field. So in the end, we actually ended up thinking, how can we benefit from that register? And fortunately, with the brilliant expertise we had, with the brilliant support we had, we have developed a methodology on how to analyze the data and essentially extract the gender disaggregated data to understand how many women are in leadership positions. And with this, I want to hand over to our partners and colleagues who will go into more details on how that has been done and where are the challenges and possibly what else can we extract from the data. One last thing I want to remark is that we have been training the business associations, the partner business associations, on data collection and analysis, and there are many more ways to apply the analysis and the work with open data than this example of the gender report. It's an excellent tool to work with to expand the membership, to understand better the constituency of different business associations and civil society organizations, and to basically develop data-driven tools as well. So yeah, now the word goes to another Andriy, who'll tell us more about the technical details of the research.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad for UNDP Ukraine for this opportunity to work together and to analyze and to work with this data and to meet and overcome some challenges. It was quite an interesting task to undertake. The thing is that we in Ukraine have, like probably in many other countries, we have the registry of companies, organizations, and entrepreneurs, businesses. So it includes not only for-profit companies, but also governmental agencies, non-governmental, political parties. All legal entities are included in this register, and also private entrepreneurs, individual, so basically they're physical persons who register as private entrepreneurs as economic agents, right? So for legal entities, there's this USREOU code, or as we call it in Ukrainian, code YEDRPO. So every legal entity has this code. Individual entrepreneurs have their individual tax number instead of the code, but as you can see on the slide, it's not published because it's sensitive data. So basically, we have information: name of the company, organization, the title of the name of the director, officially registered director or manager, like top manager of the organization, which is included in the registry. And we have many other not so many, but some additional data in each record for each company. So which is the main code of classification of economic activities, because organization or business can have many, more than one code of economic activity. These are international system of classification of economic activities, which we use also in Ukraine, and the codes are the same as in, say, Europe, which has this structure, consists of section, division, group, and class. Class, it's the smallest, the most detailed type of economic activity. Section is the largest, so it's more like a section of economy, like mining or construction or agriculture or education, like the broad categories. We also have the status. It's basically the status of whether what's going on. Basically, the knowledge about the subject, what's going on with it. Is it active, or was it suspended or terminated, or there's bankruptcy procedures that are going on with this organization? We selected only those legal entities and private entrepreneurs which have the status of active. So basically, I practically described all of those things. You can see now on our slide, which is what is the legal entity, who is the individual entrepreneur. So basically, we have two big parts in the database, which was published openly online by Ministry of Justice, who is the holder of this registry. And you can see all these things that are published. Besides, which is also very important, the address of legal entities and private entrepreneurs, their addresses are also published, which means that having the address, which includes like the oblast name, the province name, the the name of the city or village, street, etc., so we can disaggregate data by region and even by the name of the city or town or village, and go very, very deep in terms of regional distribution of the data. No questions so far? That's what we got, and if we go, I think we can see the how on your right on the slide you see how basically the data set looks like. So these are the examples of XML entry. This data set was published in XML. It is published in XML format, and you can see on the right the example of XML entry for legal entity and for the same entry for individual entrepreneur. They're basically two different databases, data sets, because they have a bit of different structure, which is understandable because they're different types of registrations. So overall data set, which we downloaded in end of June for analysis, has over 6 million entries, which combines legal entities and private entrepreneurs. And we selected those active legal entities and independent individual entrepreneurs, which reduced the size of the data set to 2.7 million entries. Still quite a lot of data, and we had some fancy time processing and extracting all the important values we had to. The tricky thing, as Andriy previously said, that we wanted to analyze the gender of the managers of the companies and of gender of private entrepreneurs. But there is no such field. So the good thing about, say, Ukrainian tradition of officially writing or recording the names of people is to have the patronymic, like the name of your father, and it has the proper suffix by which grammatically you can understand whether it's this patronymic relates to a male or a female person. So we could basically run some scripts and select those entries which are headed by men and those by women, select them and match them, and to then to analyze according to other dimensions like economic activity or territory, region, type of settlement, whether it's like a village or a big city, and how and also combine dimensions in which we analyze, like whether it's what is the relationship between the gender and the economic activity and the region or type of settlement, which is quite interesting. So that's basically what I just described. The initial data was downloaded from Open Data Portal. Want to say one thing, that we in Ukraine we've done an incredible progress over the last several years in opening up the governmental data. A lot of issues remain unsolved because we thought, and the whole open data community here in Ukraine, we thought that we just have to open up the data and we'll see the wonders, all the wonders of the world. But we understood that we don't have much well-structured and high-quality data to be open in the first place. But those like like huge nationwide registries like this unified registry of companies, which we analyzed, it's one of good examples of having at least something being open in such a big array. There are some issues about the quality of data in there, and we've made some recommendation as part of our research what should be improved on part of Ministry of Justice of Ukraine. Which is also available in Ukrainian only on our website. If we talk about the software or tools we use, so it was the Python programming language using XML library, and also we stored everything in a PostgreSQL database management system. On your right, on your slide, you can see that how, sorry for repeating a bit myself, but we use the ending or suffixes of patronymic names for identification. Ovich, Yovich for men, Ivna, Yivna for women, if we talk about Ukrainian or Slavic names generally. And we also used Ogli for men and Kizi for women in case of some Turk names. We figured out that we can do this as well, and it's pretty accurate, so we can understand the gender of a person in the registration. So if we talk about the data processing stages, so we parsed the XML files we downloaded from Uniform State Open Data Portal to determine the gender, and also we parsed the registration addresses into components. As I said, it was quite interesting to look into more other dimensions besides gender and to compare the gender distribution in different regions or among different economic activity codes. Then we converted it into CSV files for further interoperability. We also got the additional CSV files, a list of cities of oblast subordination in Ukraine, because we have also, so basically we also combine it with the structure of administrative division of Ukraine into oblasts, rayons, cities, and other, and also types, whether that's a urban area or rural area. We also combine it with the whole directory of the classification of economic activities. So we could analyze by the broader categories like sections, or more detailed categories like the final like those four digit classes of economic activities, like the most detailed description of what that or another company is doing. For instance, there is like a broad section which would called education. By the way, education is the only section of economic activity where women managers prevail, where they like over 50%, or like 70% of them in leadership positions in this section. Then we create a relevant structure of relational database. Everything, all the CSV files were imported into the database, and that's where we stored all the data, and then we generated necessary for the section that we ran some SQL queries to the database to get the data for like basically the spreadsheets for further analysis and visualization. So some tasks were set for extract those or another data in certain dimensions, and that's what we did, and then did some analysis and got some really interesting findings. So what kind of data is unavailable in the registry? We don't know about the scale of business, like how much money is that another business is making, or how many employees is there. It's purely registration data of a company. So one company is one entry, means one person, one manager. It could be a small business, it could be a huge business. They all equal. We don't have information about the informal or shadow economy. We only have information about registered organization and individual entrepreneurs, those who are duly registered according to the law. And on the other side, we don't really know whether it's a real, say, small business owner, or it's just part of a, say, tax evasion scheme, which is quite popular, probably not only in Ukraine, when people got registered as entrepreneurs, but actually are employees of organizations. We don't know also about other women participation in management, besides like only one officially recorded name of a director. And we don't know about, from this data, we don't know about how many people, how many women, say, are employed in that another sector or that another company, or likewise how much they earn. So this is what we do not know or cannot even know from this data. But as you can see on the right, we already got a lot of different dimensions by which we could analyze. These are codes of economic activity: sections, division, classes, regions, oblast, rayons, which is like smaller division of oblast, settlement type, whether it's urban or rural, and also we acquired additional data about the size of population of that another settlement, whether it's a big city or it's a smaller city. And actually we figured out, it helped us to figure out that in smaller cities there are more women in leadership positions. Then about some information about the challenges or the problems of the data. As I said, It's rather low quality. If you probably all know about the tidy data standards, there are a lot of mistakes, errors. Some you can see that some names could have both Cyrillic and Latin letters, which for for machine processing, for machine analysis, it's obviously are different letters. Even like letter C looks the same, or letter I looks the same as letter E in Ukrainian, but they are different symbols, and you cannot analyze or parse the data properly. And also we had some hard time with geographical data, with breaking down to and parsing the addresses, because they were written in all the different possible ways how a person could record address, and it could be simply fixed by adding a code of a territory as a separate value for each record. But and this is official classification of territory, which could you can see each, say, village or town or city has its code, and it also shows to which territory it belongs, to which oblast or region it belongs, and all this subordination of administrative subordination structure is encoded in this code. But for some reason it's not so it's not used yet in, well, at least this registry, but it's an official governmental classification. Also, about 5% of the entries didn't have information about the economic activity. About 4% of all entries had no names of managers or individual entrepreneurs at all, so we could not obviously determine the gender. And again, there is no gender field, so we had to mess with all this parsing of the suffixes of patronymic names of managers to figure out what the gender of the manager is. Some names were not Slavic or Turk origin, and we also could not, for instance, there was no patronymic, or we could not really, or some Western names. Sometimes you don't know, Jackie, is it a male name or female name? We couldn't do that. We just discarded all these names altogether because we analyzed only the patronymics. And the last thing to mention, that 3 different versions of coding economic activity codes, basic classification of economic activity. There are 3 different versions in one database, which was a total mess, but we managed to brought into one standard, and which required, unfortunately, additional work just to identify those all economic activity codes coded in all the version, and to convert them into newer according to the proper classification. What else do we have? This is some examples of the visualizations that we made for our report. The big thing you can see now on the screen, this like huge arrow which consists of different small streams, basically shows how legal entities, this is on the left side of the image, there are total of 997, almost 98,000 legal entities which we analyzed, and 1.7 million individual entrepreneurs, how they are distributed, how they contribute, so to say, to different economic activity sections, like a bigger branches of economy, which is like processing industry, trade, education, construction, agriculture, and so on, and then how they are how they split into a more detailed economic activities, like how the trade splits into wholesale trade and retail, sorry, how they split, you can see that. And the intensity of the color of each streams basically shows the percentage of women in leadership position in each of the this part of the diagram in this respective category or stream. And you can see the education, how intensive color is, and there is a special a separate table with the most detailed codes of economic activities set out. And for instance, provision of other individual services, where we have like 90 something or 98% of women being managers, officially registered managers of hairdressing salons and this kind of beauty salons thing. Also quite interesting if we talk about education, that what we found out that the younger the younger the students are, the pupils are, the higher is the percentage of women in managers of those organizations dealing with this kind of education. For instance, in pre-primary education, which is basically kindergartens, you can see on this diagram on in the right bottom corner that it's over 90% of managers are women. In primary education, there are less women, and in secondary education, less women, and and in higher education, like universities, there are more men. So these are interesting ways to visualize data. Basically, for this kind of flow chart, not flow chart. How they call them? I forgot. Як вони називаються ці діаграмки? Never mind. So we used raw graphics service for raw graphics IO service for generating these flows, and then we worked in Illustrator to do it. Or this, you can see these scatter plots on in the right upper corner. I think this was developed in simply in Excel, so not very sophisticated, but still quite a good way to present the data and to understand the key features. We used also, you can see the maps for visualizing some differences, regional differences. And it's quite even interesting to look maybe in more detailed division by rayon than by oblast. It seems that differences by bigger region is drastical, but you may understand the difference is also 5 percentage point from the lowest region with the lowest representation of women with the region with the highest representation of women among the managers of legal entities and individual entrepreneurs. There were some questions?
Maybe at the end.
At the end, okay. And we also have the interactive visualization, where anyone could look into the data basically themselves and try to find some interesting results, interesting representations of the data themselves, which we maybe had not covered. We could not possibly cover all of the aspects. This is the link is here on the slide. It's made in Tableau service. It's free. We used free online tool for make this interactive visualization, and you can analyze the data by the level of aggregation of economic activities, whether it's section with a division, group, or class, and also by is it individual entrepreneur or legal entity, and you can see the share of men and women in each group, and go say down or go into more detailed, more in depth, in more detailed economic activity, or on the contrary, look at the bigger picture on a section level. Is it? Yeah. Thank you.
We have some questions from Volha Hedranovich. Hopefully I spelled it right. Do you have some ideas how to determine a gender if there is no patronymic and for names like Sasha?
That's what that's what I said when I said that some names could not be identified. These are exactly the cases, the case when we could not identify the name. We don't really know. Yeah, name like Sasha is popular, especially in the West, because in Ukrainian we'll have like Alexander or Alexandra for female name, and when there is no patronymic, we cannot be sure about the sex of a person.
Okay, and the other question is, could you please provide this infographics in high quality later? I think
yes, it's on our website. It's sorry, in Ukrainian only. We haven't yet published the English translation. But yeah, this our website. No, here on social.data.org. Yeah, we can do it. We can also publish English version in SVG. Maybe in SVG, but it's also over there in the in just big JPEG. This, if you talk about the infographics with this different streams flowing from one category to another.
Okay, we don't have any more questions. Hopefully it's because everything is clear. Maybe can be so too, and we will share the presentation with the organizers, and presentation will have the contacts of our experts. So if you have any further questions, or if you watch the recording of our webinar later on, you can contact us and ask any questions you are interested in. So for now, we thank you for joining us, and have a good day.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to present our study.
Yes.
Renat is very laconic today.